Good afternoon, everyone. We'll give it another minute or so, let a few people jump on board. We had quite a few registrants. In the meantime, I'll remind everyone that these webinars are taking place every Thursday until August 15th. So we've got a number of topics that we will be covering. So if you haven't shared that news with your friends, I invite you to do so. It'd be great to have you there. And the majority of you who've registered for this event have been registered for the upcoming events as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started on today's webinar. You can go ahead and remove the share. There we go. And I'm going to spotlight our good friend Ram and I. Here we are. So welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to this third webinar of the Mindset Conquest webinar series, taking place every Thursday at 12 p.m. until August 15th. And today's webinar is on leveraging AI in the manufacturer's rep business. Every webinar that I've put together, the guests that I'm bringing on, the discussions we're having are specifically for manufacturer's rep agency owners, managers, and salespeople. And in this session, we'll be having a conversation with Graham Walker. And Graham is an AI strategy advisor. He gets it. He's been there. He's done that. He is doing it. And he's built AI products as well. So why don't I give the floor to you for a moment, Graham, so that you can introduce yourself. Again, I'm Chris Atwell. I am the owner and peak performance mindset coach here at Mindset Conquest, helping manufacturers reps inspire and develop high-performing teams. And Graham,
Great,
introduction,
Chris.
please.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Happy to chat. So Graham Walker, I work at a company called ATS Software. I've been here for 3 years. I look after their sales and marketing and do a lot of work with the we're a software company, obviously, and we do a lot of work on quotation management platforms, specification management platforms, specifically for plumbing and HVAC industries. So my employer has been in the business for 50 years. So I did a lot of work, Chris, for, gosh, time flies. It's over 20 years now in software. I worked at SAP software. I worked at NetSuite before it got acquired by Oracle. I've been at a number of smaller startups, and I've always been curious on product development. So although my day job involves very much focusing on selling our applications here at ATS Software, I do have a number of other things and engagements and conversations going on throughout the day and in the evenings and weekends with both friends and family, as well as with other just acquaintances about AI. And you're right, this is an important topic, particularly for reps, because this isn't just about going on YouTube, for example. You can search up what's the latest with AI, and I'm sure everyone on this call, you're just going to be bombarded. Where do you start? What's the how does this apply to me? So we've built, by the way, I'm not promoting or pitching ATS Software, that's not why I'm here, but we've built AI infused applications, and I'll be making reference to some of those because it's a practical example of how rep firms can make use of AI.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. I've been to multiple conferences, associations. I deal with clients every single day, and the topic comes up. From my experience, are very interested, but there's a gap around, how do I apply this in my day-to-day? What exactly can this do for me? And how can it be applied, right? So why don't you start by giving us a brief overview of what AI is and how it can be applied in the context of a manufacturer's rep agency.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I won't go into the history of AI because I'm not even sure if I could give you an accurate answer on that. I'm more aligned to your question in terms of how does it apply. So
Right.
I think of AI, whenever I'm in a conversation with somebody, I think of it in terms of people, process, and platforms. Any company, rep firm, wholesaler, distributor, manufacturer in the plumbing or HVAC industry, their business is really divided into those three categories. What are their people? What are the processes that the people follow to achieve the outcomes? And then what platforms do they have to help them get there? So applying AI to those three categories, think of it like this. AI for people is obviously probably self-explanatory. How can you get more done in less time? So, I mean, we can certainly talk about some of these in more detail, but a practical example or a context of using AI in a rep agency for the people is every rep needs to know their blind cards products really well, not just the product codes, not just the attributes and the descriptions of those products, but how they work, how to fix them, how to answer engineers' questions. So what is that? That's a knowledge base. And if you hired a new rep, or if you lost a rep, you lose a lot of knowledge, or you have to train a lot of knowledge for a new rep. So one simple example in the people category of AI for a rep firm is start building a knowledge base. AI is phenomenal at that. It's a bit of work. We can talk a little bit about that, but that's one process. Obviously, you know, this meeting's being recorded, and guess what? Everybody's aware now. It's not new. AI is going to analyze this and come up with a summary of the call and any action items. So, you know, do that. That's a process. That's AI applied to a process. Another one is like build. I'm working on one where we're building little mini AI agents that forget just summarizing your notes in a meeting like this. What about how do you get those into then your speaking of platforms, how do you get those into your CRM system or your project tracking system? There's little mini agents and automation platforms that use AI that can transpose voice into text, transcribe it into text, and then put it in the right place inside your platforms. So now you're using AI for the people, you're using a knowledge base as an example, you're using AI to record meetings, and that's the process. And the platform is using AI to get content into the systems that you're using to manage your business. So
yeah,
those three
yeah,
ways.
what I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm hearing that it can be applied in multiple ways, right? There's so many different angles you can take, but in a rep agency, it can save you time. It can help provide quick access to deep knowledge at a level that might be difficult to find in the past, and ultimately, it's about creating more efficient processes within your business that are going to allow you to achieve your goals faster, right? And that's the idea behind it. It's not a cheat code. It's a tool to assist you, right?
Yeah. And to the topic of the seminar or the webinar, beyond ChatGPT. ChatGPT, great, but it's not applied to your day in, day out life. Yes, you can use ChatGPT to reply to an email. Yeah. That's great. But you know what? I did that for a while. And although I still, if I'm writing a long email, I'll get ChatGPT to form it for me. But for quick responses, that's not where I get benefit. ChatGPT is like the introduction to AI. It's not you're not going to, there's no way to integrate that in just in its current form into your daily life. At least not very easily.
Yeah. So why don't we start with a question here? I'm going to put a question in the chat for the attendees today. I was intending on using a poll, and that poll, like I said, disappeared, Graham. So yeah. So here's a chat question. I invite everyone to look at it, but if you are using anything today, what AI tools, what practices are you using in your business, or might be interested in using in your agency today? And if you don't know enough about it, say I don't know in the chat. Would love to hear from everybody here. You know, what tools you're using in your agency, or what are you interested in using in your agency?
And just while you're waiting for some of those to come in, like I commute to work, and so I make use of that commute time in my car to watch YouTube videos. Sorry, not watch. If there's no law officials on this, or then I won't worry about it. But I'll listen to YouTube where people are talking about all the latest and greatest AI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to find a lot. There's all sorts of things popping out of the woodwork, but again, this is all about applying it to a rep agency.
Yeah.
You're not going to use that in a rep agency. You're not going to use that new OpenAI Sora video creator. At least I don't think.
Right.
I can't think of a
Right.
practical way of that. So
Yeah. Chad responded. He's using a virtual meeting note taker, right?
yeah.
Which is awesome. And I use one called, geez, what's the one that I use? I already
You
forgot
use
the name.
Read. You told me to use
Read.ai. Yeah. Thank you, Graham. Thank you. But those are fantastic ways to capture the conversation virtually, and have good note taking and
well,
something to refer back to.
let's talk about that specifically, because I use Fireflies, you use Read. They're
Yes,
similar. They're almost identical in price. That's if you're doing webinars or like sort of Zoom meetings or team meetings like this, but you don't
yes.
always, you're on the phone a lot, right? So I'm doing a bit of research right now. I have not actually found the answer to this on how to capture just a phone call,
Right.
and then immediately have AI transcribe that so you can extract meeting notes. So I see in the notes, like that mini AI agent. Yeah, that's a super important one. The concept of a mini AI agent is in the terms of, I'm trying to figure out, how do you capture a phone call that you pick up your cell phone and you call a distributor, you call one of your manufacturers, you call a contractor. How do you capture that, transcribe it, and automatically have that set up next steps, action items, reply tasks, and so on? That's what I mean by a mini AI agent. Take a process that currently you may not even realize is AI enable, can be AI enabled, but I'll mention a tool. I make a good use of make.com or Relay app, it's called. Those are automation tools. You know, in a rep agency, I wouldn't encourage you to necessarily, unless you're technically inclined, to go in and try and learn those apps. All those things do is it will literally set up automated steps. Let's take the phone call and put it back even closer to our daily life, which is email response. I've got a little mini AI agent that will literally read my email. And if there's certain keywords that I'm looking for in there, like I've got one where I've got to approve a bunch of invoices. So if it's got the word invoice in it, I automatically have that pulled out. It actually looks at the attachment in the email. It grabs who's the invoice from, what's the amount, when's it due, and then it puts a task inside. I use Gmail and I use Notion. I want to talk a little bit more about Notion in a minute, but it puts a task for me to hit approve in Notion. And when I hit approve, it literally, I've got that set up. So those sorts of things save me a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, and you know, I've heard of some AI agents that are designed to scrub Dodge documents, for example, right?
That's
Yeah,
great.
so specifications, and then it pulls out keywords, and then it can help you quickly identify, you know, if you've got any specs for a manufacturer that you're representing. So agents are little tag-alongs, if I understand correctly, like little mini programs that you can attach to your existing systems in order to speed up the process. Yeah, and I see Tiffany here is using Grammarly. That's a really powerful AI tool. I mean, you know, Word documents kind of do that too when it's doing the spell checking. That's AI. So what other, I mean, you mentioned a couple of really interesting tools, Make and Notion, for example, but let's stay within the context of rep agencies specifically. What if you were to pick, you know, one or two AI technologies that would be a good start to integrate into an agency's operations, what would you recommend?
So if you've got a CRM systems, because CRM systems are important, and I realize there's probably a variety of people on this call who may have CRM, it's well established and well managed, and those who maybe don't. I would look for a CRM system or I'll call it a project tracking system, because really that's more important than just contact relationship management, which is CRM. Make sure anything you start with has AI infused in it. If you buy an application that is built pre-AI, whether it was built in the 90s or 2000s or 2010s, and doesn't have AI embedded into it, you are going to be fighting an uphill battle as your competitors and or new upstarts come on with platforms that AI is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've already invested money in a CRM tool that is big enough, and I, you know, obviously Salesforce is the Goliath, but there's a dozen or more of them out there. Then get something like I would recommend you do a little bit of work and get something like Make.com or Zapier or the Relay app. They're all the same thing. And get someone in your business or hire someone who can come in and help you use those automation tools to automate some of the CRM steps, right? If you're having a conversation, have the AI, if an email comes in for a pricing request, like this is the day in the life of a rep, because here at ATS, we sell quotation software and reps use our quotation software. And if a request comes in for a price, our quotation software can be used to scan through a set of specs and drawings, extract the products, and apply a price to it. Now, that's if you buy our software. If you don't want to or need to buy our software, then use something, get someone who can understand, or I'm happy to give you some advice on that. Use an automation tool like Make or Relay or Zapier to read the email and give an automatic response to things that are common. So there is that's one of the first things is get your daily task, start to get it more automated in a way that is either an email responder or get a CRM system that has AI built in. There's a handful on the market, and do some Googling on that. And that's where I would start. And then if I may, level 2 of this for all rep agencies, start working on collecting your data. You've got data in spec sheets, you've got data in training materials, you've got all sorts of data in emails, right? That's called unstructured data. Get someone straight out of college or hire a part-time person, or, you know, instead of somehow budget to get a data analyst on your team, or I call them a sales ops person. They don't have to be super techie. They just got to understand sales operations and data, and get them to start organizing your data. You won't find an immediate benefit tomorrow from that effort. That's why I call this level 2 preparation for AI. It'll be 3 months down the road when you've got all your unstructured data into a database like Notion or something similar to that AI can be queried against. Guess what you can do? You can set up a chat bot. so that if an engineer pings you or asks a question, it's going to have all the answers, because you've taken all your unstructured data that's in your head or that you're searching through your shared drive, and you just took 12 minutes to answer that question.
Yeah.
If you collect all that data up, have someone who understands it, hire them part-time, or just to hire them as a project, hire them off Fiverr, get someone who can build all that data into a data set, apply, and there's a couple of AI tools. Heck, it can be just simple open AI, but there's a couple of platforms that can build chatbots for you. And then go out to all your contractors and manufacturers and distributors and say, hey, our rep room is rolling out a rep bot. And if you got basic questions, just ask the rep bot. It will revolutionize the amount of time you have then to chase projects, as opposed to answering questions and searching through your shared drives.
Yeah. You know, I've been in their shoes, and I understand how agencies work and how many phone calls you take a day by from engineers, contractors, wholesalers, looking for that general information. And here you are, an owner of an agency, taking that call, right? If you could find a way to create an AI agent, chatbot, for example, that's going to help answer those questions quickly without disrupting the flow of business. Technically, the end user could get an answer faster than if they called you. What could you do at that time? What could you be doing that's more critical to your business from a visionary perspective, from a strategic standpoint, in order for you to keep pushing your business forward? So great ideas, and the names of those recommended apps were Make, Relay, Zapier, for example. As earlier in the conversation, I put that in the chat.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned one thing, and I just put a question in the chat there. Put a thumbs up on this note I made if you have an in-house resource or champion who handles and manages your data within your agency. And if you don't, raise your hand there as something that you think that you can benefit from. I bring this up all the time, right? I help agency owners gain more adoption with their CRM systems on a regular basis. Adoption is a challenge. And one of the keys to having, Devin would love to have a champion in-house, but the key to a successful adoption of a CRM, for example, implementing new technology, whether that's any sort of data, requires a champion. You have to have a dedicated resource, somebody who's going to hold everyone accountable. That's not you, the owner, in order to keep that project moving forward. Yeah. Hey, great stuff so far. By all means, folks, place your questions in the chat. Happy to answer them while we have Graham on the line today. I did see a note that the audio is super choppy. I'm not experiencing that on your end, Graham, but perhaps there are some latency issues. I don't believe so. Know that this is being recorded, and you'll be able to watch this afterwards if you missed anything on my YouTube channel. So let's move on to the next question. And we talked about the importance of data management in leveraging any technology and leveraging AI, for example, and having a champion is really important to ensure that your data is useful and actionable, right? Mm-hmm. But let's move on from that, because I think we've hit the nail on the head there. You need a champion. Can you share maybe some case studies or success stories where AI has significantly improved business outcomes for rep agencies?
Yeah, sure. There are, this is a bit of a shameless plug, but at ATS Software, we have a platform called AutoQuote, and we have numerous agencies who use it. It is more for the task of quoting. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with AI infused in your email responses or chatbot type things. Mind you, we are working on making making a whole network that is AI enabled, which keep your ear peeled at ATS Software for that. But an agency, a story is in the southeast of the US. They quote a lot of water heaters and drains, and I'm trying to think what their other line card items are. They do a lot of brassware, so faucets and so on. And they have quite a large line card. And so when they were getting requests from distributors, they would have to go in and they would typically get just the whole project, right? Here's the specs, here's the drawings, could be 300 pages long. Now, oftentimes they just get one, they get the schedule sent to them, or so on. But there's still a lot of work to go in, extract that, and say, well, geez, okay, I guess I got to determine what it is that my opportunity is on this, right? So with auto quote, the AI reads through it for you, and so we had a rep agency that was quoting. They told me the story. They were quoting a hospital, and even though it was a single page schedule, which, you know, if you've been doing this for a while, you guys can probably blast through a single page of a schedule in 20-30 minutes. If it's a hospital, there's a lot of products, even if it's your engineer has combined it into a single schedule on a P drawing. But it still took them about 2-ish hours to do that manually. And so we ran it through the AI and the auto quote. It did it in 2.5 minutes, pulled out every single product, and it even crossed products that they didn't, you know, that aren't part of their line card. So they were proactively crossing things out into their line card so they could sell more of their own products. And does it have challenges? Does AI have challenges? Absolutely. It's not perfect yet, but that's where a human interaction is vital for AI in all cases. You should always be involved in that. So that's one example. Another one, real quick, is one we're working on with a real small agency. It's a one-man agency, and we're building a voice capture. After you go in to have a meeting, rather than type your meeting notes into your CRM tool or even into your Outlook or your wherever you might type those meeting notes, just talk to it into your phone, right? And it records it. It uses OpenAI's technology. It's called Whisper, and it transcribes that. It identifies the topic, the tasks, action items. Are there brands mentioned? What are the follow-ups required? It captures all that. And we've written a prompt on the back end so that it isolates them all out, puts it into a little preview screen. Hey, did we get it right? Did AI get it right? And you look at it and you go, oh no, well, the name wasn't Jane Smith, it was John Smith. And just maybe the audio, there's too much background noise. And so the OpenAI didn't get it right. So you can edit it, make any corrections, push a button, and it sends all those tasks into your Notion setup. Now, Notion's a whole separate thing. Notion is we can talk about that maybe in a minute, but that's another example where rather than manually typing things so that you're always keeping track of your notes, you're just using your voice, and AI is being your assistant in that process.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. Is there a way that you could demonstrate that quickly, possibly, or?
I could show you a framework of it. It is in
You
beta.
don't need to send it to the platform, but would love to
Yeah,
see how it captures the information.
it is in beta, and it is not. We do hope to release it to the market eventually, but yes, I will take 30 seconds.
Please.
So here's the framework. It'll also be a mobile app as well, because obviously that's where you're likely going to be recording your notes. So you come in here and you say, I just met with John Smith at, Everything Supply Company, and he had questions about his Zern backflow preventers because the contractor named John Doe Contracting told him that there were issues with the installation, and so I need to get him an owner's manual, and I need to follow up with him on August 10th. So that's captured in audio.
Right.
This uses an automation platform in the back end. It transcribes it, and it gives me the result. So I had a meeting with Everything Supply Company. The contact name was John Smith. I got to follow up some installation issues. It didn't capture it did talk about my Zern backflow preventers. I'm not sure why it didn't mention Zern here. This is, like I say, this is still in beta. He's looking for an owner's manual, and I got a meeting on, well, that was today. Actually, this version doesn't have the follow-up notes, but another version has.
I actually see the notes at the bottom there, John
There you
Smith.
go.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, we want to pull that out and turn that into a task. So, and then this can be just sent directly to your Notion, and you've got task setting up, and you've got all that history.
Very cool. Thank you for showing. I was intrigued by that, and you've mentioned that you were working on that, and wanted to show the world what the possibilities are with AI as we move forward here. Great. Again, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. Put them in the chat. I wanted to ask you a question around how AI can be utilized to enhance sales. I know you mentioned the opportunity with the quotes, for example, where it was looking at the document, it pulled out all the correct matches for the line card that the customer, that the rep agency had, but it also did a cross references and suggested some alternates. But how can AI be utilized to enhance sales within a manufacturer's rep agency?
So that's a big question. I think I'm going to go back to my answer is actually a really basic foundational principle of selling, which is understanding where you stand in your sales, in your targets, right? So I've mentioned Notion a couple times, and one of the things that a CRM can do this, and by the way, if I may, just Notion is it's sort of it's the next generation of CRM. Notion is used by over 30 million people around the world. If you just go to notion.so, it's called a no-code platform. And you can, my wife is a designer, and she uses it to manage her design project. We're using it to manage rep agencies. I have a friend who uses it as he's a carpet cleaner, right? So it is a no-code platform. So what I would recommend is use something like your CRM or Notion. Notion is super easy to use, and capture where you're at with your selling progress. Because if you don't know where you stand against target, and you're just sort of being reactionary, then you're going to always land at the level of where your inbound requests take you, and it could be diverting you all over the place. So no AI in that statement, but if you don't have it collected into a place, and this picture's 1,000 words, and if I may, I'm going to show you this real quick. Just here's an example of a Notion platform that we're using, where if you know your targets, right? Here's my targets. This is a demo. If Brian Mitchell knows that he sells Zern and he sells Odie, or he reps these two brands, here's his target for these wholesalers in this column right here. Here's how much they are year to date, and here's the percentage. If you don't know that, you might generally know it, but if you don't really know that, how can you really hit your targets, right?
Right.
And sales is all hitting your targets. Now, here's where AI comes into this. Notion has AI infused through the whole thing. So I'm not going to go into it because it takes a bit of, there's a back and forth, but I could go into the AI here, just like OpenAI, just like ChatGPT. I could say, where am I at in my, whatever, my Zern selling with Royal Pipe up to the end of June, and how much is left, and when's the last time I called them? That's a question you could either type into or audio into Notion, and it will tell you, because AI is infused into the platform, and you've got all your targets, you've got your notes, you got your meeting notes, you got your CRM. If your CRM does that, awesome, use it. If it doesn't, start thinking about investing in tools that have AI infused and that have those sorts of capabilities.
Yeah. 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 It's a beautiful tool that you're working on there. And one of the common things that I see across agencies is the lack of understanding, or the opportunity to better understand the story that the data is telling you, right? So you're getting all of these sales reports from your manufacturers, you're getting quote input, you're getting commissions, all of these things. And then you've got to take all of these spreadsheets and read them and categorize them and sort them. And not everyone on your team has the skill set to do that, to effectively take a look at that data and understand the true picture, what's happening. And those are skills that are learned and you have to practice. And if your agency isn't necessarily teaching salespeople and managers how to read data, or even how to set it up so that you can read it, what better way to do that than by having AI do it for you? Where you put it in one place, you prompt it, you ask it, hey, to Graham's point, where am I year to date with this manufacturer? How much more do I have to sell? And what product lines did I sell the most of within that manufacturer? And then AI tells you, rather than spending an hour trying to figure out how to read it on a spreadsheet, which
different spreadsheets, or 5 different
4 or 5 different spreadsheets, right? So a tool like Notion that Graham is saying, and it looked like it was well laid out there, can do that for you. Can do that for you.
So you just prompted something for me, if I may, because this is all well and good, but how do you overcome the challenges of how do you get started in this is maybe a question that we could discuss. And what are some of the challenges in that? Because I get that question a lot. And I feel that question myself. And as I sell the software that I get, that I'm employed to sell, I have to answer that question all the time, which is, but when am I going to get benefit from this? And the answer is never tomorrow. You get benefit immediately if you just go into ChatGPT and you ask it a question about, you take a picture of your meal and you say, what's my calorie count? That's awesome. It's cool. It's great. But is that going to help you sell? Not really.
Right.
Right. Not at all. So the answer to, some of the challenges that I would encourage the people on the call is first of all, stick it out. Make a decision to work towards AI. It's not going to happen overnight, but stick it out. There are going to be some ups and downs in that process, and you might feel like might should be changed to you probably will feel like you're spending money for nothing in the first 30, 60, 90, even 180 days. It depends on how big your situation is, what you're trying to accomplish. It might feel like it's, oh my gosh, I could have spent that money on something else. No, it really isn't that. If you focus on getting an AI system in place, focus on data quality, collect all that disparate, unstructured data, get a knowledge base, get someone who has some technical knowledge on how to build relational databases. It's not that complicated, to be honest, but if that's not your skill set, don't try and learn it. You're better off doing your other tasks. Get someone who can, even if it's part-time. And then find a champion in-house who can blow through some of these scenarios and go, well, that was great, except when I got to the email response, it didn't work, right? So those are the sorts of things where plan for it, and then set an expectation, and stick it out. Like, you can look at it in two ways: is glass half full or half empty? In 6 months, you could look at it as like, oh my gosh, I got to invest for 6 months. Or you could look at it in the perspective of, in 6 months, I'm going to be able to reach more engineers, more wholesalers, more contractors with either the same amount of people or less, because I've got a chatbot built that has every single one of my line card spec sheets uploaded and indexed by OpenAI, and like people can just chat with it. Or I've got a pricing module, or I've got, and therefore I'm going to be able to sell more, because if you're easier to work with, if you give answers faster, if you've got answers more readily available, you are going to be the one that an engineer or a contractor or a distributor calls on, because you've got it organized.
Yeah, getting the quick responses. There's quality of information that they're receiving, and the job's getting done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they recognize the efficiency when things are happening at that rate. Tiffany had a question here, and Tiffany, I think I'm wondering if you're referring to a specific platform, but your question was, have you done any sort of ROI analysis on AI platforms, implementing them in business, like rep agencies? Do you have any examples of that?
So I have absolutely done that for our auto quote platform, because it's not cheap. And the ROI, I call it the dip. When you make a commitment to go through and get something like auto quote or something less, it's a fairly sophisticated application, so it takes a little bit to get set up. There's a lot of data management and migration and so on. You're going to have people who resist using it, etc. The dip is where it feels like you're getting massive negative ROI. But the positive, yes, I have done ROI saying in 6 months, 6 to 8 to 9 months. And I'll be honest, there are manufacturers who use, I know I'm very specific to my own application, but we have customers who are publicly traded plumbing manufacturers who use our platform, who have now been able to do 3 times, in some cases, if it's a smaller job, 5 times more jobs in a day, and get those quotes out to their reps. So that the reps aren't tied to their monitor trying to figure out the price of something. The manufacturer has a centralized quote team. They haven't had to hire a person in over 18 months. And they've done they're now doing 3 times the amount of volume using our system. And the ROI is in the thousands of % for them. That's a scale that they have the benefit of scale. So I realize that's maybe a bit of an anomaly, because if you're a smaller or medium-sized rep firm, you don't have the benefit of scale. But the principle applies. Put the time in initially, define what the outcome is. I want to be replying to less simple pricing requests. Okay, so let's get a little mini AI pricing response agent where you can, I realize pricing, street pricing, bit buy pricing, there's all sorts of variation in a pricing response. But if you're spending time in an email response giving a distributor the same answer to the same product that they asked for a week ago or a month ago, that's a waste of time. You should build a pricing response bot and say, hey, just inquire here, and the bot will tell you the answer in 1 second. And it'll have a record of it, just so that you have an audit trail and you're not spending time on that. There's ROI in that. Have I calculated that sort of scenario? No, but yes, you could absolutely calculate. Now, what are you able to spend your time on?
Yeah.
And how many more manufacturers are actually reaching out to you because you've got a really easy to access piece of information or platform?
I think that's a great point you make. You become attractive to manufacturers, and vice versa, right? Rep agencies want to work with manufacturers that are organized, efficient, So my recommendation is look for those manufacturers that have the systems in place to get you information quickly. How many times have you onboarded a new manufacturer and it took twice as long because you couldn't get simple information like programs, pricing, stuff like this in a timely manner to communicate with contractors and distributors, right? So imagine a world where you are partnering with manufacturers who have these systems in place, these agents that are allowing you to access that information quickly, and vice versa. You position yourself as a valuable partner to the manufacturers because you have this unique agent in place that you've invested in that speeds up processes and gets product to market faster. And the soft cost savings can always be calculated in any case when you're doing an ROI analysis. Time savings is so valuable in this space, right? And if you're looking at how many hours in a week you're spending doing a certain task, and you can associate a dollar value to those hours, you can quickly discover, you know, what that soft cost savings is, and then apply that time to somewhere where it has a big impact on your business, right? Very interesting.
So I have a question for the attendees here. Where do you, maybe in the chat you could respond, where do you find you're spending most of your time? Is it reactive, either responding to inquiries for pricing, or is it proactive where you're out there? Like I think of proactivity in a rep firm, and maybe I don't have a full scale of understanding, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but proactivity in a rep firm is going to the engineers and getting your products into more specs, so that you're not chasing it later to try and get crossed into a project. I'm talking commercial projects, obviously, but are people spending more time being reactive or proactive?
Yeah.
And give a scenario if you've got one.
Yeah, let's get some answers from the audience here. Where do you find you're spending most of your time? Are you spending most of your time doing reactive tasks or proactive tasks? And you can write that in the chat. My guess is that you're spending a lot of time responding to requests, last minute requests, versus getting out there and sticking to a plan. But let us know. Let us know.
Because Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's some of the value that you add to this industry is you're helping them be more proactive, right? What is my plan? What are the steps I have to take to get there? And if AIs can benefit you in that, then great. Yeah. Use something like Notion. Invest in a little bit of invest in the building of a chatbot, or invest in a sales ops person who knows databases. But you got to build the plan to begin with. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it.
And it's understandable when you're running an agency and you've got many hats that you're wearing, you're growing, and you're representing multiple lines. You've got this territory where you want to be present for your clients, for your team. Of course, you're going to find yourself being reacting in situations where people need you. The idea becomes, how can you switch it so that you're spending more time doing the proactive strategic work versus the reactive stuff that's eating up your time? It's important, but it's not necessarily taking your business to the next level. And that's where tools like AI can certainly help. And I think one of the most important things to do in all of this is to ask a lot of questions. So if you find yourself interested in learning more about AI, Graham and I are both available on LinkedIn. So you can find us on LinkedIn. You've all got my email. I've invited you all to this this webinar, but feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out, and perhaps there's something that we can do individually or together to add value to you and your team. The more we understand your business, the more we understand your situation, the more we can help. And so that's an invite that I'm extending to everyone here.
And I'll just add, if I can, Chris, I mean, your coaching is super valuable for both mindset. Ironically, I'm sure that's why it's in your name, as it is to sort of the outcomes. But I would encourage all reps to start planning a little bit longer term, because manufacturers are going to start asking you for more data.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to ask you for more results. They're going to be saying, why should I choose you over this other agency? And if there's I don't know, I'm not a rep. I know, but if there's a rep firm that starts up, or somebody splits off and starts something because they're young and eager they've got great data tools and they can give reports like, that's what you're going to be competing with if you aren't already.
Yeah.
In the next 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely. It's already happening. And I would encourage everyone here, and my clients will attest to this. You deserve access to quality information and data from your manufacturers as well.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate to ask for it. Commit to getting it from them in a legible Excel format on an ongoing basis, detailed information that you'll be able to leverage and organize in some AI tools that will help you in your agency. But without that data, you've got nothing. And I would venture to say that in some cases, some people on this call, and this is the norm across the industry, likely have a manufacturer or two that are still sending them information in PDF format, or they're not receiving regularly scheduled deliveries of data at all. So take that step forward and ask for it, demand it as part of the partnership. So.
Just reminded me of something, which here's an immediate benefit of AI. If you're getting reports from your manufacturers still in a PDF form,
mm-hmm.
you can use ChatGPT to extract it from that PDF and put it into a CSV file and download it in Excel.
That's right. Yeah. You need a paid version of ChatGPT to do that, I believe.
ChatGPT 4.0, the free version will actually do it, but I would encourage you to spend, what is it now?
$25 a month.
$25 a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it. But yeah, you can actually do it on the free version.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, Chris. I mean, even if the because a lot of manufacturers, like I said, I spent time at SAP. If you don't know what SAP is, don't worry about it. It's a huge German company. Like, the world's largest companies run SAP. It's if you want to talk about complexity, oh my gosh, just go and try and talk about SAP to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of manufacturers still use have to use highly complex systems like SAP and Oracle, and they're all, although SAP is a very modern company, they probably got an older version of it, and they even have, the reason they're probably sending you either spotty reports or difficult to get reports is because they have a hard time getting to their own data. All of that is being resolved over time
with AI. Yeah.
With AI. So if you're in the middle of this equation, get whatever you can. And then take something like Notion, which is incredibly easy to use and build and learn, and it's got AI infused in it. And then you're going to be able to take all these unstructured reports from your manufacturers, put them into a common data set, relate them properly, and you're now probably able to give answers back to your manufacturer faster than they are even able to find it themselves.
Beautiful. Another great way to apply AI in your agency. And with that, we will conclude this webinar. I want to thank you very much, Graham, for joining me today. It was a very, very valuable and insightful conversation. And thank you very much to the attendees. We'll be hosting a webinar next week on optimized use of CRMs with Kyle Spangler, my special guest. So hope to see you next Thursday, same time here at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and invite anyone to reach out to Grammar with any questions you may have lingering following this webinar, and we encourage your feedback as well. So if you have any feedback, please feel free to leave it in the chat as we end this webinar, and have yourselves a great afternoon. Thank you. Thanks, Graham.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Pleasure.